Hi, my name is Dave Reese, and I'm a physical therapist here at Springboard Pilates. Springboard Pilates is in the West End of Portland, and they have an excellent array of teachers here that are really Colorado-based and authentic in terms of their teachings. I've been associated with Springboard in terms of teacher and student probably well over 15 years. I've been teaching here for approximately 10 of those. And I find that the Pilates programs are essential for a person's overall individual fitness and balance in terms of their everyday life. It's one of those things that I think is an essential practice for our physical bodies. Primarily here today just to begin probably a series of these kinds of videos discussing various parts of the body. And today what we would kind of like to touch on briefly is and it's important to understand that this is for probably a normal, healthy shoulder. We're not looking to educate you if you have an injury. I think it's best to rely on your healthcare practitioners, whoever they might be, to better advise you in terms of your own special care that you need to take for that injured area. This is just a general kind of way in which we can approach our shoulders so that we might have a better posture, better function in our shoulders, maybe even some recovery after doing our everyday type of gardening or computer work, or things that we would normally find that might be aggravating to our shoulders. So I'd like to begin with a little bit of an explanation of exactly the kind of work that we're going to be doing and why we're doing it. The muscles of the shoulder are pretty complicated, and there's a lot of muscles here. The joint itself is pretty poorly designed in terms of its overall structure and function. It's not the most stable joint in the body, but this is what we have. And so therefore, it's a really good idea to be able to use these exercises to help the muscles of the shoulder work more efficiently. And by doing this also, we can help to improve our postures as well. So, and I mean in terms of the overall cervical, the neck position, as well as the mid-back positioning. One thing I can tell you is that if I slouch, and I try to bring my arm up as far as I can, this is about all I have. You can try this on your own, slouch, and lift your arm up as much as you can. And then if you were to stand, engaging your core, maybe pulling your shoulders back, opening the chest wall, your ability to move your arm will be that much more efficient, because everything within the links and the chains of movement within the shoulder become freer. And that's what we're looking at. More efficiency of movement with a lot less muscular effort. We're dealing, however, with muscular history. Most of us have injured our shoulders falling out of trees. I know I did as a kid. Or hitting the first base instead of actually running through it in baseball. There's all of those kind of injuries that we might have had. And so when we work with these kinds of things, we're dealing with muscles that are perhaps injured previously or just tight. One of the things I want to show you is what happens to muscles when they do get tightened. Over a period of time, we can end up producing maybe a slight strain in our shoulders that might create some tightness. And then if we're spending time sitting in front of our computers and slouching, and do a sudden garden project where we might strain our shoulders, ouch, then things begin to tighten. And over time, at times, because of just normal daily events, it begins to tighten more. And it tightens to the point where you end up effectively getting a knot, or something like that in the area. Now, oftentimes what we'll do with this knot is we'll try to stretch it. But what happens often is that that knot comes right back into its previous position. And the reason why it does that is because the fascia, or scar tissue, kind of forms between the areas of the muscle that's tight and twisted. And so what we need to do is, if we just stretch it without any intervention, that muscle comes back and goes back into that repeated tightened state. So what my proposal is, and it's not mine, none of this is mine, because this is all from the teachers that I've learned from here at Springboard, and as other teachers that I've had in my 30 years of physical therapy experience, is that what you can do is you can take massage or deep tissue work, and you can work across those muscles. And as you work across those muscles, and you can stretch it, what will happen is if we don't do that, as we go and stretch the muscles, it will recoil right back. So by using a tennis ball or something like it, a stick, your own fingers, a golfer's hands, a massage therapist's hands, as you work with that area and you kind of free up the scar tissue, you can work to stretch it, and it will attain and stay there. And you can continue to work it so that it continues to unwind. And what essentially happens is you're taking an injured shoulder that's like this, and you're gradually nursing it back to a position where you're beginning to allow for normal balanced movement with less stress and less discomfort. So that's kind of like the theory behind the muscular work that we're going to do today. And what I'm going to do right now is take you through maybe 4 basic deep muscular massage approaches, and also show you some very simple stretches. Again, this might be very, very familiar to you. It might be totally different for you. You might also have other ideas that might be even better than what I'm showing. This is just the basics, and by all means, feel free to play with this, but also be safe about it. Don't be crazy. Take your time, breathe, and just allow the stretch to occur as it happens within your body. Don't ever work with the pain probably beyond a 3 or 5. Usually pain scale 0 out of 10, 10 being severe. If it's going to be uncomfortable, 3 out of 5, 5 sufficient. If it's sore after, always apply ice. Okay? So let's begin. I'm going to show you first, with Pam, our assistant here, what we would do in terms of working the front part of the shoulder. So we're going to look at the front part of the shoulder in terms of the pectoral muscles and probably the anterior aspect of the deltoid muscles here. So what I'm going to have Pam do is she's going to take the tennis ball and she's going to place it right in the area of the front shoulder and probably also into the area of the collarbone. And what she's going to do is she's going to move around. So she'll do small circles, side-to-side movements, because what we want to do is you want to be able to move across the fibers of muscle and not just along one side. The muscles are this way, so we want to work kind of going up and down across those muscle fibers to help in terms of releasing those muscles from being taut. And maybe doing this for another 10 seconds. So we're not doing this very long, perhaps a 30-second massage period. And then what I'll have Pam do is we're going to do a stretch that kind of encompasses the front part of the chest area by having her place her elbow in the edge of a doorway. You can also place it on the edge of a wall. And what she'll do is she's going to end up moving forward, okay? Moving forward and turning away from the elbow that's along the doorway or wall. She can also do tiny circular movements there if she would like to, because that will also encourage more muscle fibers to be stretched in the region, and breathes. And maybe another 10 seconds, just to get some elongation. Yeah, that's good. And then what we can do is we can do it to the other side. So again, we're just going to take the tennis ball. We're going to place it in an area perhaps just below the collarbone or toward the anterior part of the shoulder, the front part of the shoulder. And you're moving back and forth, or you're going around in circles, whatever makes sense to help in terms of freeing that area. You might find that there's a really tender area there. Sometimes it's a good idea to work directly on it, but if it's too tender, work below it, work next to it. You don't have to directly go on it, because if it's really tender, it's going to release anyway in time. At some point in your own stretching experience, you'll be able to get there and massage it well. But it might be better to be just cautious first. Don't be pushing it too hard. I don't want you to get really sore from it. And another 10 seconds. Again, just moving as you do in all directions. Good. I think that's good. And then you can go ahead and stretch that aspect of the shoulder again. So either stepping forward, and she'll turn a little bit away from the arm again, and moving maybe in small circles to allow the front part of the shoulder to open up a little bit more. And another maybe 5 more seconds. stand back to our film. So another area that often gets people in our shoulders is areas that surround up through maybe the base of our neck or the top of our shoulder blade here. And sometimes people get irritations that might be occurring through the area between the shoulder blade and the spinal column. Okay? So what we're going to do here is take the tennis ball and we're going to work it in such a way that we can actually open this area up as well. The muscles run in this type of direction and this type of direction in the area. So the idea of doing a circle covers this area. So I'm going to have you go against the wall. And in this case, what happens is she's going to place the ball in that area. And what she'll do is she's going to lean against the ball to give some pressure. And then she's going to take her arm and she's going to pull it across this position where the right arm is on top and bent and pulled over towards the left side, with her gradually moving up and down in circles against the wall, is primarily purposeful in releasing that area that I pointed out on her back. So we're going to do this for maybe another 10 seconds. That's good. And I'll show you an idea here that was taught to me by a woman, of course, where you take the tennis ball, you place it in a pillowcase or a sock, and that way you can put it over behind you, doing the same thing. Just because, if you're like me, you're going to spend more time picking up the ball off the floor than I will be stretching. So save yourself some time and put it in something like this. It makes it much more secure. So again, she's in that position. She can just roll it that way up and down as she would like to. But if she's working the left shoulder blade, then she's going to bring her left arm in front, the right arm comes underneath, and she's just going to move and stretch that area with the arm going across. This is just a nice way of broadening the musculature between the shoulder blade and the spine to get more length in that area as well. This allows for the shoulder blade perhaps to float across the ribs a little bit more gracefully, let's say, in terms of normal movement. Without our shoulder blade, we can never get our arms beyond this height. So by using this technique, it allows our shoulder blades to free and allows our arms to, again, move more freely. Another 5 seconds, perhaps. Okay, that's great. So another way, and this is actually the same way to stretch this, now away from the wall, is if we're going to stretch the right side of our shoulder blade in that area, you can bring your arm up across you, you can wrap that arm around, you can turn your body to the left as far as you can, and the idea is, this being my right side, I'm going to take my right arm and stick it into my left hip pocket. So I'm going in that direction. This is something, again, that will help to stretch this area. A lot of people that do computer work, culinary artists, these kinds of people who do repetitive work with their arms, jewelers, end up getting a lot of strain in this area. This is one way in which we can stretch that area out. And you should take periodic breaks during your day to be able to do this. Okay, let's go to the other side. So we're just going to put our left arm on top, right arm underneath. If you cannot hold on to your hand, don't worry about that, excuse me. You can just simply place a rubber band or something like a pillowcase in between your hands to be able to get that to happen. Even so, you may not even have to hold on and you can just stretch that way. And moving around slightly in a small circle. This is also effectively done in sitting. We're demonstrating this just in standing, but I really prefer sometimes sitting and doing the same thing with this. Another 5 seconds. Okay. And the next one that we'll do is stretching for the top part of the shoulder. In this case, you can take your tennis ball in the left hand, and you can use your fingers too. I'm just showing you just using the tennis ball more, just as an idea. Lacrosse balls work, your fingers work, the back end of a spoon would work. I mean, whatever you've got to just sort of massage along the top of the shoulder itself. One of the primary muscles of the rotator cuff is located here, and sometimes gets tight. So the idea of massaging that area is a way to maybe get that to free up a little bit more. It might also help the neck. Yeah? And why don't you just go ahead and switch to the other side as well, then we can stretch both sides. So you're just going to end up going in along that top part of the shoulder, all the way almost towards the end of the shoulder, on the outer edge of the shoulder blade, actually here, and back into the area behind the neck just slightly. And another 5 seconds is good. Good. And next, I'll take that, we'll stretch it. So what you're going to end up doing is you walk over to a door edge or to the side of a wall, and what you do is you place your hand behind your back and you sort of sidestep into that area to help this area to elongate, and then you slightly side bend your head away from the arm that's behind you. So you're going to actually go to your left with your head. Here you go. So you get more of that stretch through the entire side. Go gently. Don't be crazy. If your neck's a problem, just don't worry about moving your head. Just step into the shoulder a little bit more to sort of accomplish that stretch in the top part of your shoulder. Moving around in small circles, perhaps again. That's good. Let's go to the other stretch, using the other arm. So again, hands behind you. You're going to step away or towards that shoulder, away from the hand that's behind you. And you can, from here, side bend your neck if you wish. And maybe make small circles with your hips or your feet, just to gain a little bit more length through the top part of your shoulder. And if you're doing this and you're feeling like some pinching on the side that you're moving towards in your neck, stay away from it. Don't get any pinching at all in your neck while you do it. No pain. If you do, just stop. Good. So far we've covered a stretch for the front part of the shoulder, for the back part of the shoulder, as well as the top part of the shoulder. One more stretch that I want to go over today is one for the tricep. And this one is one where you're standing and you bring your arm up over your head and you're just going to stretch the area of your tricep through the kind of close to the underarm and into the shoulder blade. One thing you can do to advance this stretch a little bit is to allow your entire torso to bend to the left. When you do that, there's more of a stretch that occurs here. This is for some of the latissimus muscles, as well as for the inferior shoulder blade muscles that can impede us from bringing our arm up over our head. So these muscles are very important to work with. At the same time, before even doing this, you can also apply massage of your fingertips to this area, just to sort of allow that area to free up fascially before you stretch it. And let's do the other side. I always like the idea of maybe being a little active with your arms first, before going and doing the deep muscular work and stretching of it. It depends. This would be hard to do first thing in the morning versus sometime towards mid-afternoon. If you're a swimmer, you're a hiker, you're a biker, all of these things can be done during activities.